There is less blood in the average rabbit than there is in the average erection. Yeah, I know, wild fact, what a way to start, but it's true. And it took me a while to get my head around it. I think, I'm not really thinking of the averages, I'm thinking of the first one I had, and it was this big, black, actually made me bleed more than once. It was a very violent rabbit. 25 kilograms, pure muscle, heart filled with hate. We called her Blackberry. This isn't the first time that I've had to speak in front of an audience. My parents, they're very churchy people, and one of the things their church did was they'd give you these little practice sermons. And I got my first one when I was about 7. And they were nice. They picked the perfect subject for a 7-year-old to talk about: the sin of adultery. So the first thing I do is I go, what does that mean? And it's cheating on your spouse. Once I had that, I was good to go. And the big day comes, I go up to the stage, put down a little footstool just so I can just about see over the top of the podium on my tiptoes. And I look out, the audience, they just see a mop of blonde hair, chubby cheeks peering out over them. And I've been told, make sure you make eye contact, that's important. So I make eye contact in the front row, lovely elderly couple, Rog and Doris. And I make eye contact with Rog, and I start, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." And that's when the stage fright kicked in, and I froze. So for the next 5 minutes, I deliver a scathing sermon, explaining how ye shall be damned for cheating on thy wife, directly to Rog. Neither of us blink. Beads of sweat are running down his face as he sinks deeper and deeper into his chair. Poor Doris is staring daggers at the side of his head. What does this child know? So that was the first time that I destroyed a marriage. There's a lot of weird things about being raised in church. We'd go and we'd all sing hymns together. There'd always be one person thought they were on Britain's Got Talent. They not got talent. My parents, they actually go out and preach. They'll go out and ask people, "Hey, have you found Jesus?" And for me personally, after 2,000 years, you should accept you're not winning this game of hide and seek. And of course, there's the choir boys. They'd all get up there and they'd sing. Then they'd go and they'd sit down and they'd all kind of wince a bit when their butts hit the wooden bench. Okay, that's not entirely true. It wasn't all of them. The ugly ones were fine. Yeah, if you thought that joke wasn't bad enough already, my parents saw him doing this on Instagram and actually came tonight, so yeah, sorry, Mum and Dad. No, I could never be a parent myself. It's always other parents that are trying to sell me on it, Having a child, it changed my life. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. When are you going to have a child? And then, in the same breath, I haven't slept in weeks. My house is a disaster. I think I've got a little bit of poop in my hair. Some of them, they even get up on stage and they do stand-up comedy about how having kids makes them want to revisit their spreadsheets. No, if I wanted a tiny human living in my house, eating all my food, never paying bills, waking me up in the middle of the night, covered in vomit, crying because they want their bottle, I'd just move back in with my uni housemates. No, I'd much rather have a nice, quiet evening to myself. I like playing video games. I was playing one the other night. It was a role-playing game. And my character walks into this city. A dog runs up and it pops up on my screen and says, "Pet the dog." And I'm not a monster, so I pet the dog. And the dog runs off. And it pops up on my screen again. "Follow the dog." So I do. And then it pops up on my screen, really big words this time. "Quest started. Defeat the legions of hell." And if you're a bit confused about how we got from a dog to that, Don't worry, so was I. It escalated really quickly. But it did get me thinking about how useful that would be in my life, getting a heads up of what I'm getting myself into beforehand. You know, when I went to uni, I had to pick what subject I wanted to study, and I chose film. I went and got myself an arts degree. Quest started. Unemployment. While I was at uni, I was out clubbing, I was getting on really well with this woman all night, and, you know, I decided to go home with her. Quest started. The second time you destroy a marriage. Or, you know, even more recently, I decide I'm going to do this stand-up comedy event, raise some money for charity. What's the worst that could happen? Quest started. Disowned by your parents. Yeah, sorry, again. Mum and Dad?